Thank you. So my presentation, there will be many pictures, very little text. But the text is at the beginning because we need a definition. As you can see, the title is Antropotechnics and Self-Directed Evolution. And we need a definition of Antropotechnics. This is, as you can see, a term used by philosopher Peter Sloterdijk to indicate all the techniques that have an impact on human nature itself. Okay? So this is the definition. Then, here he's talking actually about so-called secondary anthropotechnics, because anthropotechnics can be distinguished in primary and secondary. Primary anthropotechnics are actually tools that were used by starting from Homo habilis up to now, because this is something that people tend to forget. We created ourselves through technology, because when Homo habilis started using tools, then they started modifying the environment, and this had a feedback on our phenotype and genotype. So for instance, Joe started reducing when he started cooking stuff. Homo erectus, for instance, was using fire, or they were cutting meat. And so basically, our shape changed, our nature changed. So we are already inside this primary anthropotechnics in all evolution of humans, but also education and socialization had an impact on our nature because they have an evolutionary impact, or medicine. People that would die early, if they can survive thanks to medicine and then reproduce, of course, all these processes have an impact on evolution. But of course, we have also secondary anthropotechnics, which are much more direct, because it's like actually changing the germline directly using the techniques of transgenesis, which was, let's say, discovered in the 70s, back in the 70s, and we started modifying animals and plants, and then it's possible, technically, modify humans themselves. And of course, they started to use these genetic therapies also to fix some problems. So in this case, of course, Sloterdijk said, well, this has a direct impact on evolution. You know? That's why we are using the term self-directed evolution. Here the difference is that this is kind of planned. There is an awareness of this. Of course, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthaliensis, Homo sapiens, they were not aware that they were shaping other types of humans by using tools. But now, of course, we are. I must say something, because evolution, yeah, we learn evolution at school. Actually, when we go to school, we learn two things. We learn the myth of Adam and Eve, right? So, and there is this idea that there is kind of, so it's called biological fixism, that we are ontologically different from animals, and animals from plants, and there's nothing in common between these beings. And then we learn, maybe in the next hours, that there is evolution. And then what happened is this, is that some people start wondering if the two things can be integrated, and some people just put one notion in one part of the brain and the other in the other, and they keep thinking that there's no interaction. But in fact, if evolution is true, Adam and Eve never existed. In a sense, they can take it as symbols of something that happened, but not literally. So for a long time, in the Middle Age, we were taking like literally this fact, that there was a fall. Actually, Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge, and then God sent them out of the Garden of Eden, and they stopped being immortal. Before they were immortal, right? And then they are mortal. But of course, through the theory of evolution, we know that there's no ancestors that were immortal. All of them were mortal. So this never happened in this way. But of course, it's still possible to find symbolism to understand in a different way, not literally this myth. And this is something that, of course, some Catholics do, because you know that now Catholicism accepts the theory of evolution officially. I mean, starting from John Paul II officially. And now, as what happened, let me clarify one thing, because of course, you know, we hear a wonderful presentation about Spengler, and then he said, you know, there's something satanic in technology, maybe we're playing God and so on. This is typical, and you always hear this. Once we know that all technology can interfere with evolution, why not doing this? So this is the first idea that came to Francis Galton, the cousin of Darwin, after the theory was kind of rediscovered, because this theory was already there in ancient times. Empedocles, Anaximenes, but even St. Augustine is talking about evolution. So this theory was already there. So why not doing this? And then this idea came to many people, starting from the 19th century. Of course, the first reaction of some people is, okay, but this is playing God. We are taking the place of God. And here we have several answers. So I want to clarify one thing, that it's not so schematic. It's not just, there are believers that are against these ideas, and then there are non-believers that are pro, because it's much more complicated, because you may have atheists that answer, this is the case of Watson, they say, yes, of course it's playing God, but if we don't play God, who else can do it? Is atheist, so man is God, so we have to do it. But you also have atheists saying, wait a minute, okay, there is no God, but it took millions of years to come to this point. We discovered transgenesis back in the 70s. We don't know what are the collateral effects of all this. If we start messing with DNA, we don't know what comes out. So it is a secular opposition to this idea, and so you can have atheists of both types, but you can also have believers that have different positions here. For instance, of course, there was a response like this. Some churches in the United States, they are still into creationism. They just refuse the theory of evolution. So they solve it this way. There's no evolution. So this is fixism. The Bible has to be interpreted more or less literally. So we are still inside this interpretation from the Middle Age. Then there are people like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. I don't know if you hear this name. He was a Jesuit priest and a paleoanthropologist. That he said, no, we have to fix the problem. So of course, we have to understand differently the fall from the Garden of Eden, the original sin, and all this story. Because of course, there's no fixism there. Why this is important? Why this is important? Because this put in and of course, I said there's a third category of people, of Catholic, that they put one notion in a part of the brain, the other notion in the other, and then they say, okay, there is evolution, and then they talk as humans would be here forever, and we're here forever. They weren't here before, and they will not be here in the future, because evolution keeps going. So in 1 million years, there will be probably another type of human. But this is important from the point of view of, like, sorry, I have a pound here inside. Let's use technology. Where, Christian anthropology, it starts from this, I oversimplify probably, but it's like this. We are persons. Each person is different from another because we have a soul that is unique and a body that is unique. And the combination of this unique body and this unique soul makes your person. This is typical only of Christianity, because other religions believe in the immortality of the soul, but not that there will be a resurrection of the body. Things about Buddhism, but things also about Greek philosophy. They all believe in reincarnation, Socrates, Empedocles, and Plato, and all these people. So they think that the body is just a machine that you can modify and change. The soul is you, and the soul reincarnates in different bodies. So there is no problem with the theory of evolution, which actually we find in Empedocles and we find in Anaximenes, because they say, yeah, of course, bodies are changing, but the soul is getting from a body to another. Now, the problem is with this specific interpretation of Christian anthropology, because it's easy to say, okay, but humans are different from animals because we have a soul and they don't have it. But when came into play the soul? I mean, when there was this, the Australopithecus, from Australopithecus to Homo habilis, paleoanthropologists, they say we start being human, Homo, when we invent technologies. Because when we make tools, then we are humans. No tools, no, you're an animal. So it's technology that makes you a human. Paleoanthropologist. But here, is it between Homo habilis and Homo erectus? Is between Homo neanderthaliensis and Homo sapiens, which actually lived at the same time. So, and Homo neanderthaliensis was as intelligent as Homo sapiens. It's very difficult to answer this question because the situation is like there are two parents, because of course, as the Pope said, God is not a magician that creates humans like from nothing, like magic, like this. Of course, he believes in evolution, like all Catholics now. So the point is, are there two parents that don't have a soul and their children have a soul? And so the children say, hey, daddy, why I have a soul and you don't have it? I don't know, darling, I don't know. God decided like so. Of course, it's much more complicated, yes? So this, Teilhard de Chardin and other Catholics are challenging this Christian anthropology coming from the Middle Age and this idea of evolution, because the idea of the fall and so on, because it must be understood in a different way. So they're still believers. One more word, yes? This debate was already there in the Middle Age. It was already there. It's not that in the Middle Age all of them agreed that we cannot modify humans. Roger Bacon was a Franciscan friar. He said, okay, he was a fixist. So he said, okay, God created animals and humans and plants and they are different, fine. Adam and Eve were immortal, they lost immortality, but wait a moment. In the Bible it's written that Adam lives 1,000 years. Methuselah 1,000 years. They all live 1,000 years. So one thing is immortality and eternity that belongs to the spiritual world, and is something that we cannot sometimes even grasp, okay? And maybe we will become like this after death. Another thing is extreme longevity. So we can live 1,000 years as these people in the Bible were living. So this is a literal interpretation. And so we can do it through technology. That's Francis Bacon is saying, through medicine and so on. Francis Bacon, he said something similar. He said, God sent us out from the Garden of Eden, and now he's playing with us. He's playing a game. He's saying basically that he's amused, he's delighted by the fact that, okay, now you get knowledge, now you're like me. Actually in the Bible say one of us. Elohim is plural, but let's not enter in this problem of the translation. Now you're like me, so find a way back, waiting for you. Use technologies and find a way back to gain back your immortality. So the debate was already there, and of course there were people saying, no way, this is challenging God, this is playing God, and so on, already in the Middle Age. So it's much more complicated. I hope you got the point. Yes, you may have many different positions here. Let's move on. Coming to our days, we found out that we have some problems. Humans have some problems. We have limited possibility of regeneration. But on the other hand, we know that other animals, our cousins, because of course we found out that we have many genes in common with many other animals, because we belong to the same family, because we come out from evolution. Again, there's no biological fixism. If you cut let's say the leg of a salamander, it grows again. So why not try to find a solution? But mind that children have this possibility. They lose a phalanx of the finger, it regrows, so we have it. But then it stopped working for some reasons. So the idea is, can we reactivate this? Because actually we have ancestors in common with salamanders. So we still have this gene somehow. Is that just a matter of reactivating? We have a relatively short lifespan. 80 years is not much, right? Especially with such an interesting world around us. And does it work? Okay, but we know that there are animals, our cousins again, like the Greenland sharks, that they can live up to half a millennia, 500 years. 500 years. And then we got this is sponge. Sponge can, which is an animal, it can live up to 15,000 years. So 15,000 years. Corals that have many genes in common with humans, and scientists were astonished to see that, for instance, a fly has less genes in common than corals. Corals are animals, yeah? They may live up to 5,000 years. So the question is, why you can't? This is aspen, right? Okay, and aspen lives like a couple of hundred years, but the root systems, because it's reproduced through cloning, the root systems can be as old as 80,000 years. So it's the same being living 80,000 years. We have this problem of aging. Basically, we fall apart. All animals have these problems. Not really. This is our specific problem. So we lose our teeth, we look like our skin get different, and so on. Like this is a hydra, right? Hydra is virtually immortal in the sense that it keeps regenerating, and is forever young. It can, of course, dies. It's not eternity in the spiritual sense of the word. It still dies. It dies because, for instance, it cannot find enough food, or it is killed by a predator or whatever. But in principle, it can live forever because it can keep reproducing our tentacles and parts. Of course, this is the lobster. Even the lobster, there's no senescence, doesn't get old. It dies, of course, for different reasons, from exhaustion, because at a point, it can keep regenerating and regenerating its body, but it becomes bigger and bigger. At a point, it doesn't find enough food to regenerate against. It needs too many calories, and it dies from the reason, or because some predators, like fishermen, get them and boil them alive, and which is us, yes? But this is another animal that has a very negligible senescence, because it's a very low metabolism, while we have a higher one. So it's aged very slowly. It can live up to 500 years, turtles. 100, 200, 300, 200, 400, 500 years. Okay, we have sensory limitations, because we think, okay, we can see all is around, we can touch all is around. Well, to a point, we can experience reality only partly, because there are other senses we don't have. Like because, a cat can see by night, we can't. Or there are animals having kind of sonar or radar, like dolphins, of the bats. Of course, we try to imitate them with technology. Okay, so we know, we are conscious, studying other animals, other forms of life, that we have some limitation. We can perceive things that other animals don't perceive, but they can perceive things we don't perceive. So our understanding of reality is limited. Of course, we are quite proud of our intelligence, that we think the most intelligent beings on this planet, we assume. But on the other hand, we managed to build computers that this is a quantum computer. It doesn't really work so well, to be honest. But still, computers that can make mathematical calculations and things that we cannot do with our brain. Of course, we have emotional intelligence. We can do things that computers don't do. Still, the thing is, can we improve our intelligence? So once we found out all these things through science, the Faustian man, he says, can we have a solution for this? Of course, the idea is like human augmentation or human enhancement, blurring the line between biology and technology. I repeat once more, we always did that, starting from our cousins, Homo habilis, yeah? But now we do it in a conscious way. The difference is this. Sebastian was mentioning Julian Huxley. He actually introduced the word transhumanism. He said, once we discover evolution, once we understand our technology interfere with our nature, there's no way out. We have to self-direct it. There's no things you can say, I don't do it. Because even if you say, okay, I will ban this, I will ban fertilization, in vitro fertilization, you are directed evolution. Because you are deciding how the next generations will be or will not be. So anything, once you know it, you cannot refuse the task. That's what Julian Huxley said. It didn't say, it wasn't like, yeah, we can do it. It was like, that's a drama. I mean, it's like a tragedy in a sense because we are not ready. That's what the founder of transhumanism said. We are not ready for this. Human beings probably are not ready because, we are not mature enough to do this. But still, we cannot say no because now we know that with our decision, when you choose your partner, you are a eugenist because you are deciding what the next generation must look like and be like, yeah? So when you decide to cure illness or not, you are a eugenist because you know that if you manage to survive and to reproduce, this will have an impact. Now we know it. That's why you cannot refuse the task. Now, limited vision. Of course, we invented glasses. And you may think, okay, that's normal. No, because at that time, of course, I'll come back in a minute with this. This is a type of human augmentation that most people use, right? Now, of course, they invented other types. This is, I think, is BMW, yeah, but that they invented the glasses that are like as an augmented vision. You can get information when you're driving, whatever. Now, the next step, German scientists use microchips to enable blind to see, so implanting retina that is like an artificial retina to see, and going on this way, yeah? Then I will come back to the glasses later with an example. Aging, solution, reversing aging. Is it science fiction? No, it works in the sense that it works with animals, so it works with humans. It costs a lot of money, that's why we don't. I mean, I don't know if you hear about Brian Johnson. He's a tech entrepreneur, and his physician, 30 physicians checking him. He said he's 47, but he's like 27, so he's 20 years younger now after our intervention. With stem cells, you know, getting sensor of stem cells and many other things. Intermittent fasting, all the rest. Basically, he spent $2 million per year to be younger. Yeah, so it's not for everybody. But it's possible. But think about these things that everybody have access to, yeah? When women get estrogen hormones after menopause, what they are doing? They are rejuvenating by using technologies. Get all these products to rejuvenate. It is impossible with progesterone, estrogens, and so on to regain fertility at a point for old women. Or what men do when they take the blue pill, the Viagra, and so on, they rejuvenate. Because, of course, we have this decline of testosterone, and then we have products that, you know, can solve this. I'm not here to sell the product, yes, or to promote it, yes. It looks like trying to sell. No. What about anti-aging therapies? Okay, so we lose our dental capacities and teeth and so on. Of course, we may have this type of prosthetics, yeah? But then, of course, technology goes on, and then you can implant this, but the next steps is like using stem cells to regrow them. It's technically possible. And they're doing this. Limited regeneration. I told you, a little child can still have this capacity. If you lose like a phalanx, not the full finger, by the way.
Which year? I never heard that.
I think it's newborn, like, I don't know if it's 1 year or 2 maximum, I think. Yeah, but it must be up to the edge of the nail, because if it's under, then there's no way, okay. Of course, then we invented like non-invasive artificial limbs that are used also in sport. The next step would be like implanting directly into our body this and guiding with our brain. So you can see that we are kind of compatible with machines. It's not, again, an ontological incompatibility. We are completely different. We have electric impulse and chemical reactions inside our body which are compatible with machines. So we can merge. Or we can regrow human limbs by, again, finding out which is the gene that, you know, we have to turn on again to make it grow. And they are working on this. And DARPA and the Pentagon is investing billions of dollars because they have so many soldiers coming home with no legs from Afghanistan and Iraq and so on. So volunteers that, you know, to check these technologies. Then, of course, cyborgs. Of course, cyborgs already exist. Think about pacemaker. We live because we have a machine. There are even human beings that have a heart that with no beat, so it's just a flux of like fluid inside the body. Limited intelligence. Again, I'm not trying to sell anything yet, but there's so many products. I don't advise to use it, I'm telling you. I'm also suspicious. We had a discussion yesterday. I'm very suspicious with big pharma that they can sell things that could be dangerous, yeah? Still, these things are around, yeah? So many retraction, I don't know if you know. So many fabricated studies because there is a conflict of interest. And so the big pharma are paying the scientists to prove it's safe, and the fact that you can use this. So, but still, these memory pills, they are around, yeah? But again, you can think also about computer-brain interface. Here they build a computer with living cells inside that learn how to play Pong. connecting this computer with brain cells. So they're building biological computers, and of course, they don't just give them electricity, they also give them some water with sugar, because they have to nourish these cells. But so when they say, how can a computer be conscious when it is not even alive? Well, you also have alive computers, in the sense we understand life. So biological, carbon-based and not silicon-based. So what next? That's the good question, right? Because some people say, okay, enough is enough. I have enough. So the reaction is very polarized here. There are people that are enthusiastic, say, wow, fantastic, I want to stop aging like Brian Johnson, and others are completely scared. I said, what are we doing here? No, I don't like this word. This would require a sociological reflection why we have this polarized response, but maybe if there is some question, we can go back to this. But the question is, some people say enough is enough, and some people are just waiting for the next step. Now, this is a good question, as I said, and can we move on? I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is the law of Moore, right? The law of Moore, they said that the number of transistors inside a microchip, it doubles every 18 months, okay? Every 18 months it doubles. This means that this growth is not linear, it's geometrical, yes, because the scale is not linear. And then the question is, it's not just, according to Kurzweil, this is one of the gurus of the transhumanist movement, proposed the law of accelerating returns. We said this is just the law of Moore, a case inside this evolution of machinery. When we talk about microchips, Moore is from IBM, yeah? Because he said we consider all computers, mechanical computers, relay computers, vacuum computers, transistor computers, and so on, and maybe in the future quantum computers, then is twice as exponential, he said, twice. He was giving this, let's say, metaphor. He said, people tend to think progress as linear. We always think it's linear, which is not, it's already geometrical. But he said, if we think linearly, in the next 100 years, which is 21st century, we will have 20,000 years progress, because the progress goes like this, not like this. So he made this prediction that we will have like a machine indistinguishable from a human being right now, 2024, and actually ChatGPT 5 is coming, and they said that it's really much more advanced than what we have. Okay, I'm almost finished. The next step could be, according to Kurzweil, merge with machines, the human-machine merger. And then we should, he's very optimistic. He said, well, don't worry about computers that are so powerful that there can be millions of times more intelligent than human. We just incorporate computers in our biology, and so we will have all this memory and this capability. Some people think it's a nightmare, and he thinks it's something wonderful. What is ethics here, yeah? Ethics. I don't know how many minutes I have. I almost finished. Sorry, I know I'm taking too much time. But of course, physicians, there are many rules. Physicians are giving themselves, this is the Helsinki Declaration, because at a point you have to test all this stuff on human beings, and you don't know, what can be the effect. And of course, there were many abuses, and I also wrote a book, Lethal Experiment, about abuses in medicine. But physicians are very cautious. Who is not cautious is politicians. I mean, because they say, they revised this declaration many times, 7 times, but I think after the third revision, the United States of America said, enough, otherwise we block our startups and corporations and big farms. And then I think European Union, they got up to the 4th or the 5th. So they are not following the physicians, that they are quite cautious. Oh, yeah, just a word about glasses, yeah? Ethics. Now it's normal, but already at that time, they were saying that this comes from the devil. This is Neil Handley, the museum curator of College of Optometrists in London. He said glasses, like they appear in the 15th century. We don't know who invented. Probably it's a multiple discovery. Many people invented together. Because they were seen as being unusual and rare, they were seen as having magical powers. And people who wore glasses were considered to be in league with the devil, so immoral people. So I'm just saying this because maybe we just have to get used to these new technologies. Okay, this is one of the possible inventors, is Salvino d'Armato degli Armati from Florence, and here is his tomb. It's written here, Salvino lays, inventor of the glasses, may God forgive him his sin, because of course he's like playing God. If you don't see, it means nature or God don't want you to see, so why you're challenging? Okay, the same happened with the telephone, the same happened with the cars. I'll go very fast here. Yeah? I don't know if you know this tale of the fox and the grapes. You know this tale? So basically the fox sees these grapes and he wants to eat it, and then it goes there, starts jumping, he cannot reach them, and then the fox said, oh, what a fool I am. I mean, these grapes is not good, you can see it's sour, so why should I eat it? And he leaves. So the moral of the story is this, that many people say, I don't like technology because they don't have it. This happens also with this. When this appeared, I remember so many people, I will never want it, I don't want it. After a couple of months, they had a telephone in their hand and said, why, you said you don't want it. Yes, but you know, when they understood that it was affordable, then they got it. So William Ogburn, as a sociologist, said call it cultural lags. He said it takes some time, you know, to adjust to technologies, and sometimes people refuse it just because they don't have it. But of course, there are people that are kind of like consistent with this. Like the Amish in America, they said electricity is from the devil, and again also engines, you know, cars are from the devil. We don't want them. And they live on the technological standards of the 19th century, which is not true because I recently discovered that they don't drive cars, but they take taxis. So they change the interpretation. Or they use computers that they cannot connect to internet, but they use it to do some calculation. So in a sense, they're getting lost themselves into the civilization. Okay, what does it mean to be human? This is really a very complicated question, yes? For a paleoanthropologist would say, yes, a Homo habilis is a human. He's a human being. But I don't know if everybody would agree, because people tend to think only Homo sapiens is human. Now, is Homo habilis a human? If he's a human, then maybe this is also human. Maybe we need a different definition, in the sense that transhumanism is not against humanity, it's against the idea that only Homo sapiens is human. So, for instance, we got, again, Pierre de Chardin, this Jesuit priest, that he provides this definition. He said, the term human and its derivatives must be understood as synonymous with psychically reflected life. Psychically reflected life. This means that robots, computers, or even hypothetical aliens are humans as far as they are conscious, intelligent, and capable to reflect on their own existence. So this is the requirement to call someone a human. He believed that machines could be, and he elaborated this theory of the noosphere, and the same process would happen in other planets, and one day all the planets would connect, and so on. But this would take too long to explain, so I stop here my presentation, and I hope you have questions so I can get into some. Thank you for your attention, as you can see. No, I didn't see the situation. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Campa, for this interesting critique of many debates that were modern back in the day throughout history and that are modern still in this very day. Do we have any questions for Professor Campa?
If I may, so I have so many questions, but I'll just ask one. On the last slide, or last couple of slides, you're talking about the question, what is human?
Yeah.
What is to be human? And you had the definition of Teilhard de Chardin. If you can put it to Chardin's definition? Yeah, okay. So I'm wondering if, traditionally in philosophy, there is something that we would call, that would accord to this definition of cyclically reflected life, a certain sense, or something conscious intelligence, you could say that this is a person. So in this sense, I think even Immanuel Kant speculates that there could be intelligent beings that are persons.
Yeah.
Or we could even say that angelic beings are some kind of persons in that sense, and then maybe
God himself is a person.
exactly, God himself is a person. But I think the term human is, well, I think the bodily side is crucial to being a human. I mean, of course, you can define a term as you like if it's a technical term, but I think if we derive the term from our natural language, then humanity has this bodily component, and the naturalness, now I come to the point of the bodily, the natural component is that there is something which is given and presented to us, which we can like help out or even modify or whatever, but there's a notion of givenness to nature.
Yeah.
And is that not the crucial point where the fear comes in, or also the negative reaction to some of the scenarios you've been explaining, that any kind of givenness is supposed to be taken away, or it seems like is trying to be eradicated, like, so something like total self-control, and this is what makes people scared. So you react. This was more of a talk than a question. I apologize, but maybe you can react.
I can say that probably, I don't know, we should ask the Art de Chardin to answer this question. Probably he would answer this way. What is given in a cosmic evolution? Probably nothing, in the sense that Pantarei, everything is moving and changing, like Heraclit would say, but apart from the cosmic Christ, because this is the Alpha and the Omega, so it's given, it's at the beginning and the end. All the others, humans included, are not given, so they are not godlike. But this, even Parmenides would agree with this, or others. I mean, what is, what is not, in the sense that there is something which is given, is only something immutable. But humans do change, even bodily, because your children are different from you. So is the convention say, from this point to this point, we are humans, but this change keep going. And the Art de Chardin would say, humans will be different from us in the future, but they're still human if they are conscious of their existence. Or he would say, like in science fiction, aliens are green. They have a body. I don't know if they have tentacles or legs, and they are green instead of our color, but if they know that they exist, they are human. So as we are changing all the time, because other beings are changing all the time, so the fact of having a body is okay, I understand this point. Probably, that we had a discussion even yesterday about St. Thomas, that he said, no, angels don't, but they are beings that exist, they're self-conscious, they are even more important than humans. Humans started being like in a very high position with Pico della Mirandola or Giordano Bruno in the Renaissance, right after God, right? A second God that can decide what to be, even an angel. But in the Middle Age, humans beings were considered somewhere in between, between stones and God, somewhere in between. It's more important than animals, but less than a plethora of angels, So in this case, probably, yeah. It's like considering human being. I come to your Pico della Mirandola because it's fine, because I don't know if you know, but I'm the founder of the Italian Transhumanist Association. And I was also the director of the World Transhumanist Association for a while, but many years ago, 15 years ago. The motto of the Italian Transhumanist Association is this fragment from the Oration of the Dignity of Man, because we don't think it's in contrast to transhumanism, because we think that the spiritual aspect depends on the bodily aspect. Because the thing is this, the soul is always there, but has different possibility of expression because body is different. So the soul in the Homo erectus would be the same as our soul, because this is, if we accept the idea of the immortality of the soul, and the fact that it's similar to God himself as a spiritual being. So the soul would be the same, but the possibility of expression is different because the machine is limited. Our machine is just a little bit better, so our brain. So if we have a different machine in the future, by chance if we don't want to take decisions, or by decisions if we decide it, then the possibility of expression will be higher. Sorry, I'm taking too much time to answer the question, but the question was really crucial and important, you know, about human nature. Someone else had a question, by the way.
Thank you very much. It seems to me that the problems, part of the problem is that technology is developing faster than ethical, sociological, and philosophical reflections on it.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, and I think it is, it seems like we as social scientists, we are always running after the change and then trying to explain it, describe it, and put an ethical perspective on it. Is there a possibility, or do you think it would be good to have some sort of think tanks or governing bodies that would try to predict course, trajectories of changes, especially in areas which are important as artificial intelligence or artificial intelligence in medicine? So do you think that would be some way to the solution, or to better preparing ourselves for the challenges of for the future?
Thanks a lot for this question. Actually, the word Transhumanist Association was created for this reason, because Sebastian mentioned the version of the Declaration of 1998. This was very enthusiastic because all the transhumanists, we were very young and we were all into science and technology. We saw only positive sides, let's go this way and so on. If you read the following versions of the same declaration of 2001, 2003, 2007, there is more and more talking about what you're saying, in a sense, which already Julian Axel was mentioning. Are we ready for this? Okay, we cannot refuse the task, but are we ready for this? As you said, it seems that there are dangers coming from these things, that many of these engineers and scientists, they do it why? To make money. Of course, some of them are interested in understanding now human nature or biology and so on. There is this drive, let's say ethical drive. But of course, many of them, they're into money. And so they may run too fast for this reason without checking enough. So if this is safe, is not safe, they want to have a patent and use it. Yeah. So I would agree with you. But the Transhumanist Association evolved in this direction. Before, it was all about, yes, we want free technology, we want to go on. And then it started, okay, but we have to discuss, because here there is, like, as we said before, big pharma, they're not probably totally reliable. There is business inside and all this stuff. To a point that I remember a meeting in Helsinki in 2006, and Nick Bostrom, that was one of the founders of this association, and the president at that time, the chair, he said, I estimate that we may self-destruct, my estimate is 20%. So on 100 possibly, so it's quite high, you know. But if you look around, we are using all this technology for wars. I mean, what happened is this, that scientists may be interested, especially transhumanists. You must know that transhumanists tend to be a pacifist, because we think that war is dysgenic. War is killing the best specimen, because those that are not fit to fight, they stay home to reproduce, and those that are fit go there and die. So transhumanists tend to be pacifist. But what happened is that they started inviting us all the time. Who? CIA, Pentagon, NATO, the Ministry of Defense. They want the super soldier. They have a totally different understanding. You know, we are like, can reverse aging, like Francis Bacon, the Franciscan friar said, and they are into, like, can we make stronger soldiers that can fight for 3 days without sleeping? This is their question, you know. So I would agree with you. Of course, I'm not saying that the only possible think tank is the transhumanism. We can create many others, even like, of course, transhumanists now, they have a kind of bad reputation because of the beginning, that they were bit fanatics with all this stuff. We don't see the problem. And then they became more mature, and probably it doesn't help, this fact. People don't forget the beginning, you know? So yeah, I would totally with you, you know, if the idea is creating like think tanks to think about all possible side effects.
Well, this is more of a question for both Professor Campa and Professor Ostrich. But Professor Campa, don't you think, in a sense, that there's this notion in critique of transhumanism that, in a sense, as we are creating this system in manifestation, let's say, of AI in this sense, we are also becoming slaves of this evolutionistic system. Like we are creating a second nature in a way. And the problem, you know, in this Hegelian sense is that a thing is a thing for itself only when it sets up all of its conditions and makes them the moments of its self-realizations. And the problem with postmodern identity is that it's everything but this. So, you know, are we setting up our moments of self-realization, or are we becoming, again, some form of animal in a sense? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I got the point, but you may correct me, yes? Technology, in a sense, a transhumanist would answer this way: are we enslaving ourselves with technology? The answer would be we are already slave of nature, in the sense that the human condition is tragic already, because we get old, we die, and so on. Of course, when you get into this process, you never solve it, in the sense that we will keep improving. You may, for instance, live 200 years through technologies, and they say, why 200 and not 300? And then you go on, but you never reach eternity, let's say, because this is a different order of concept. So in a sense, it is true that you become dependent of this technology. But the thing is that we are already dependent on the tools invented by Homo habilis, because look, now we have clothes, yes? If we were naked, we would all die. I mean, now, of course, it's not so cold, but we would just die. So we are already dependent of technology. Are we enslaved to technology? Yes and no, it depends, you know, how we understand this word. But we are already totally dependent of technology. In a sense, even these shoes or whatever, glasses, we cannot live without. We would just die. We can become more and more. I don't know if you are also thinking about the possibility that an elite that use this technology to enslave the rest of the population, because we may observe this, right? That's those that in the Silicon Valley or whatever control the social network and so on, they have more power than us. They can decide if we can say something or not. They can censor us and not. So in this case, that would be also a very good question, because we keep talking about humanity and technology, humanity, nature, and technology, but there are also social classes. I mean, I don't buy, let's say, Marx's atheism or materialism, but I think he was right in saying, listen, there are also social classes. Otherwise, we don't understand the dynamics. So he got something right, in my opinion. So in this case, it's interesting to ask the question about, yes, how technology can be deliberately used to enslave people by a group of people, by an elite, which is obviously, technology is power. Francis Bacon said technology is power. It's important to remember this anyway, that if you say, I totally give up with technologies, it means I totally give up with power. So I give you power, which is probably a worse situation. So it's difficult, but we have to understand which technologies free us and give us some power as individuals, and which technology enslave us. I took my decision, for instance, I don't have a television. Since 30 years, I think that is all passive, getting things thought by someone else, and very low standard from a cultural point of view, so I gave up with this. This is my decision. I'm not saying that everybody should do that. So I'm not saying that since I'm a transhumanist, I use all technologies are around, and I need the last model of iPhone. Actually, I have a quite old telephone. It keeps working, it's okay to me. I decided not to use a television and so on. So I think we have to choose. And this demands, of course, some self-consciousness and reflection and thinking about the consequence of using some technologies and not others.
Do you want me I don't know if you wanted me to answer as well, or say, I'll try to say something really quickly. So I agree with a lot that Riccardo, you said, but so what I'm still struggling with is just pointing out single pieces of technology. We might say, okay, what's the difference between an iPhone and a pair of glasses? well, nothing really, you know, just one is more sophisticated than the other. But I think there's been, on the total, so if we look at the entirety of technology, I think there has been a certain type of change from a certain instrumental sense of substituting that which may not reach its natural goal, like your eyes are meant to see, but they can't fulfill it, you need glasses, up to a dominance of technology where we judge everything else by its ability or potential to become part of a technological process. So I think this is a very, I read this part in Spengler, and this, you find also something like that in Heidegger and many other thinkers, like seeing a waterfall, but not seeing the waterfall, but seeing a source of power, of energy in it. And so looking at the whole world in a kind of like instrumental way. And so I think this might be the actual challenge, not so much is it sophisticated or not. So like a more of a general like mental outlook on what technology is in our lives. Yeah.
The main problem I have with this is that if we are not defined in this postmodern identity sense, and systems will instrumentalize us in some point, because a priori they are de-affectualizing, and thus in some way dehumanizing. That was actually some sort of a point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, I don't know if I have possibility to say a couple of words on this.
Of course,
yeah.
of course.
I remember that, Aristotle, he was already using this category by saying, for instance, that slaves are like tools, and even women are like tools for reproduction. I don't know if you remember this. I mean, feminists were very angry when they were reading this. So in a sense, he was saying that part of humanity are already slaves and tools, and so they humanize for the only fact that they have to work in order to live. The only fully humans are those that don't work. They don't need to work in order to live. So they have other people working for them. So in this case, this was the Greek definition of being a free man and a slave. To a point that Plato would agree and would say, but listen, we have to treat slaves better than free men from a material point of view, giving them more food and clothes and so on, because they are very important. But he would agree that only free men are, those that don't work are free, because they can think and reflect about their essence, what are we, what is a human, and so on, these things, yes? So now I would agree that less and less people think about it, and probably these technologies that we are using may have an effect on this, yes? Because we are there all day scrolling and looking to memes instead of reflecting. And when we don't do it, we are working like tools inside the system. And this tool is exploiting us more and more. Like before it was like a few years ago, 8 hours, and now we are working more. Of course, 19th century we were working more, like 12 hours, but then it went down and now it's going up again. So yeah, I would agree, if I understood what you meant, I would agree that there could be this dehumanization, even taking the definition of Aristotle.
And we have one more question for Mr. Campa.
Thank you very much, Professor Campa, for a regular great talk you had. One hypothetical question, I believe you were connected with some kind of a given frame. If we could imagine, or if we could reach some kind of a hypothetical transhumanistic stance, or in the context of some technological paradise where we can autonomically fix our issues, overbound our limitations, what do you think? Would that be a kind of end of classical interpretation and approach of evolution, or would it be another step of it? So if you can.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. This is a great question because it gives me the possibility to touch a topic I didn't tackle here. That in fact there are two types of transhumanists. Well, there are many types of transhumanists. As there are many types of Christians, many types of anything, many types of socialists, many types of nationalists, or whatever. So, but there are, well, let's say two types of transhumanists. That one type of transhumanist that thinks that we are approaching an end. In a sense, we are approaching the so-called singularity. Ray Kurzweil he used this term, the singularity, is a moment that is really a complete change, that it looks like, it's a bit technognostics, you know, it's like the Gnostics, they are living in a fake world, but then we enter in the real world. So there is a solution to the riddle of history. So it's very eschatological, this view, by Ray Kurzweil, even if he's not particularly, he's a Unitarian, which is a very specific religion in America that was actually founded in Krakow, where I live, by an Italian guy, Sozzini, the Unitarianism. By the way, he's a Unitarian, but he has this view, yes, that we get to the singularity, and Teilhard de Chardin has a similar view, because the omega point is the moment in which we merge with the cosmic Christ. He invented the word transhuman, and he invented also the word ultra-human. And ultra-human is humans that modify themselves through, I don't know, genetic engineering, all this stuff. But transhuman is another name for the cosmic Christ. So transhumanism is about Jesus Christ in a sense, but understood as he understands this. So as the logos of the universe, so which is very philosophical as a view, not like a traditional Catholic views. By the way, the interesting thing that they see an end. There are other transhumanists, they say, no, there is no end. It's like we keep changing. We have to say, this is our instinct of survival. This is our nature. Each of us, why we are going to eat something after? To survive. Why we are buying clothes? To survive. So this is another way of surviving. There are new tools. We fight. Probably one day we die, but we cannot do anything else that like following our nature. And so there is no end to this. Probably one day even humanity will disappear because, I don't know, maybe an asteroid will destroy us. But the fact that now I want to live 200 years or 300 years is just because it's my instinct of survival, so it's my nature. So two different views. One eschatological, almost religious, and the other more like practical and pragmatic. And they don't like each other, these two types of transhumanists, yeah, because...
Thank you, Mr. Campa, very much.